This episode of the Local Insider Podcast is brought to you in part by My Patriot Supply. There are two things you can count on when you buy from My Patriot Supply: getting high quality food for the best value and the peace of mind that comes with knowing that you're prepared. The emergency food you'll depend on is made from the freshest ingredients. Meals are freeze-dried and sealed airtight with oxygen absorbers and closed in resealable heavy-duty 4-layer zipper packs for long-term storage that lasts up to 25 years. And they're all made in the USA. By ordering today, you'll have the peace of mind that only comes with the ability to feed yourself and those you love in any crisis situation. We think you'll agree you cannot put a price tag on the personal freedom that comes with being prepared. Visit localinsidershow.com/emergency food and pick up your 2-week or 4-week emergency food supply. Again, that's localinsidershow.com/emergency food.
Welcome to the Local Insider Podcast, the show about everyday people who make a big difference.
Welcome to the show, folks. Today we have Sarah Enoch. She is currently the extension agent from the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service. She has a Master's of Education from Auburn University and a Bachelor of Science from Auburn University. She's currently living in Boonville, right?
Yes. I live in Greenwood, but I work in Boonville.
Okay. So what exactly is the Cooperative Extension Service, and what's the history behind it?
I'm really glad I studied before doing this. The Cooperative Extension Service got its start in 1862 with the Morrill Act. The federal government gave the states parcels of land that they were free to use to raise money to start a university. And the land grant university in Arkansas is the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, as well as University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Some other land grants in the area that you might recognize are Texas A&M, Oklahoma State University, University of Missouri State University, and in Mississippi, it's Mississippi State University. Part of the requirements for the land grant were that they also establish research in the areas of agriculture and mechanics, and that they establish an extension service to take the research from the universities out into the counties and present it to the everyday people of the 1800s and early 1900s, because university research wasn't very easy to access back then. So that's how the Extension Service got started in the United States, was through the Morrill Act of 1862 and also the Smith-Lever Act of 1914, which officially established the Extension Service.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I found was the 19 was it 1913 or 14?
I have 1914 written down, Smith-Lever.
So, just to let folks know, what role do they play in the community, the extension services?
Our job is to take research from university and to disseminate it to people that they can use in their everyday lives. So that might involve taking agricultural research and new technologies for growing crops or animals and helping farmers implement that new research on their farm to save time or money or grow better produce. It might also involve taking information about personal finances out to people, or sometimes we have family consumer science agents that teach modern canning methods to make sure that people don't accidentally give the whole family food poisoning by doing things that aren't kosher. Not kosher. Don't say kosher.
Yeah, you can say kosher. Kosher. You use kosher salt.
Okay.
Kosher salt and canning. No, that's canning salt.
Canning salt. Yeah, that's for pickling.
Is kosher a politically incorrect word to say? I wouldn't think so.
I don't know. It relates back to the Jewish faith, and I don't think that it's necessarily has to do with food safety.
Oh. Okay.
So with food safety, the universities did research on canning methods and on different recipes for canning so that they could stop the spread of botulism, because people were literally trying to put up their produce from the summer and were poisoning their families. And so part of that research that they did at the universities had to be disseminated out to the people, and the Extension Service were the ones to do that.
Wow. So it's a really valuable asset that's provided for free to everybody in the community, right?
Well, it's not 100% free because your tax dollars actually go to support the Extension Service.
True. Yeah, we forget about that part, but yeah.
Yeah, the federal government and state government and even the county government, all three contribute to the running of the extension offices in the county.
So how can the people in the community help the CES?
Our job is to help you, and so spreading the word about us. Some people Arkansas's best kept secret, and we want to stop being a secret. So we need to get the word out that our services are available to the public for free. Definitely.
I went through a study course on wild plants and wild edible plants and foraging and this and that. So we would move on, say, from like yarrow or yarrow, depending on which side of the Mason-Dixon you're on, to I don't know. The plant's not important, but the important thing is at the end of every course, that in the identification phase, before you consume any of this plant, go to your local extension office and have it identified. So would that be you? Would you be the person that we would take, let's say if we grab some yarrow or a plant that we've identified as an edible plant, take it to you and you would say, yes, this is in fact what you have there on paper. Is that a service that you provide?
Yes, we can identify plants, insects, and wildlife. So I have identified lots of insects that have been brought into the office, including bed bugs and poisonous spiders and scorpions. All types of things that come in through the door. And I've also helped identify different weeds and plants, mushrooms, things like that. We don't always recommend that you eat something just because unless there's a lot of research saying that it's not toxic and that it's safe. We could definitely get in trouble if we don't identify the plant correctly, or if we do identify it correctly and your information was wrong that it is poisonous.
Right.
That badly. But we've had edible plant classes and camping sessions with the Extension Service too. Our state forestry department hosted those. They were really neat. We actually made 3 different recipes, appetizer, main course, and dessert, all from foraged items.
Wow.
So that was really cool.
So what did you guys make? What plants did you use? And they were from Arkansas, right?
Yes, we used acorn paste and created some type of bread.
Bitter.
It wasn't really bread. It was acorn bread, along with some berry jam that we cooked up. But we made pine tree tea out of pine leaves, not pine needles.
Very high in vitamin C, by the way. Very high in vitamin C.
Yeah, it was really good. So, but the majority of plants that I identify are weeds because someone wants to kill them from the garden or the yard or the field. So I do a lot of weed ID for that purpose.
So did you guys go to the process of extracting the tannins from the acorns, or did you just ground them up and then make the bread?
It was pre-ground acorn flour that we So I don't know how hard they worked on that before we got a hold of it.
I think that's what Native Americans used, was it not? Was it acorns that they used to make flour? Acorns and maybe
some animal fat and some berries they mixed together.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. We could go down a really deep rabbit hole. So I'm going to go ahead and go into this next subject.
Okay.
So tell us a bit about your personal history. First of all, where's the office of the Extension Service? You said it's in Boonville, correct? Or is it in Greenwood?
There's a county office, at least one county office in every county of Arkansas. So there's 75 county offices, and you can find your extension agent online at uaex.edu/counties. And go on there and explore and meet your county agent and go in and talk to them. Almost every county in Arkansas has an agriculture agent and a family consumer science agent. The ag agent focuses mostly on forages and crops and gardening, your outside things. And then your family consumer science agent focuses on finances, cooking, healthy living, and some of them even have exercise classes that you can join for free and some other really cool programming that they do.
Wow.
I know. I am the 4-H agent for Logan County. Not every county has a dedicated 4-H agent, but we do. And I focus almost entirely on youth programming and on our 4-H clubs.
So what is a 4-H?
Oh, what is 4-H? 4-H is the United States leading youth organization. It's bigger than Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. It's bigger than the sports club, the governing, I don't know what that one's called, but the governing body of all sports and athletics in the United States.
Wow. So like the Athletic Association for football and basketball, all that, the 4-H is bigger than those?
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. I see kids at the fair, they'll have 4-H badges or medals or something for their animals that they've raised. Is that kind of what you do? Is you help those children learn how to properly raise and manage those animals or the plants, whether it be plants that they grow, like a prize-winning squash harvest or something like that?
Yes, agriculture is one of the biggest programs that we offer in 4-H, but it is not all cows and chickens. We also have STEM programming, robotics, shooting sports, horse clubs, you name it, 4-H has it. The main goal of 4-H is to create leaders and good citizens for the counties that they're in. And so we do that through different projects like raising an animal for the county fair or gardening, or some of the kids in my county are involved in entomology and do an insect collection. They can also be involved in more individual development type things like cooking or exercise science, things like that. So 4-H is really a very well-rounded program, I think.
Wow, I had no idea. So let's say I wanted my kid to sign up for 4-H. How would they do that?
4-H is free to join, and you can again go to our website, uaex.edu, and one of the tabs on the top is for 4-H. You click there and then find the tab that says join, and that is how you sign up for 4-H. And once you do, hopefully your county agent will contact you, or you could go ahead and send them a quick message asking what type of programs are going on right now. It's a weird time for us all, and so some of our normal programming has been suspended or moved to a virtual format. So it's a good idea just to check in and see what's available in your area. Some things that we're still able to do this year in Logan County were our giant pumpkin and watermelon contest and our poultry chain contest, where we give baby chicks to 4-Hers in the spring. They raise them all year. And then at the county fair, we auction 3 of them off, and the money from the auction is used to buy chicks the next year. So there's still a lot of social distancing things that we can do in 4-H and have online meetings, but our in-person meetings are pretty much on hold.
Oh, that's too bad. So they go online, they sign up, and then somebody reaches out to them. Is that how that works?
Yeah, it'd probably be best right now since the club leaders are maybe not having in-person meetings and won't be going through their roster very often, just to go ahead and contact your county agent in your county just to check in and say, hey, we're interested in 4-H. What's going on right now and what can we do?
How are some of the processes changed since the pandemic? Are they pretty much on a hold, or are they able to do it from home, like say get instructions via online learning?
Yeah, we've even got online camps going on right now where you can join a camping session, and we have Campfire Fridays. So it's not like we're not doing anything at all. We're just not doing it in person.
I see.
So lots of opportunities to take cooking classes. I've seen pie making classes in some other counties, and I've seen all kinds of creative things that you can do from home to stay involved with your 4-H project.
When you say that you are the, what was the title again? The 4-H?
The 4-H agent.
Agent. So does that mean you're over other project leaders that are in the area, or are you, like, if they sign up for 4-H, you're gonna be the person that says, okay, here's you come pick your baby chick up, and then maybe in the spring or whatever would that be you, or would that be somebody else?
I'm the main contact for 4-Hers and club leaders in the Logan County area, but we do have volunteer club leaders that are in charge of each club in the county, and there are 10 4-H clubs in Logan County right now.
Okay.
So there's club leaders per club, and the club leader is the main person that would normally be in charge of activities on the club level, such as like a cooking class or something that they wanted to do just for their club meetings. And then I'm in charge of programming on the county level, like the Giant Pumpkin and Watermelon contests, or like our county achievement banquet. Okay.
So, for those of you that are familiar with the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, you would be like the regional leader for all of the den leaders. So they get all their instructions from you, like the programming manuals and all of that. That instruction comes from you. You kind of guide the ship, so to speak. And
right.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the feral hog program? I've seen so many posts about people with all these feral hogs tearing up their land. And I saw a post that you put on with a couple of guys. I guess they were hired hunters or trappers or something to try to stem the problem of the wild hogs tearing up people's property. And
I hate feral hogs. I hate them. And I've done some programs in school where I go in and talk to the kids in a science class about feral hogs and the difference between feral hogs and domestic hogs and why there's such problems. That's a really cool program where we talk about applications and we talk about food webs and things like that reach some of their science standards, but also allow me to come in and talk some about 4-H and wildlife habitat programming that we offer. And I would love it if we could eradicate the feral hog, like humans have been so good in the past at wiping out other species that are native. I think that eventually we will be able to wipe out the feral hog, which is a nuisance animal.
Right.
But it's going to take some coordination and some planning among people as well as the cooperation of hunters.
Do you have to buy a permit or get a permit or a license to hunt these hogs, or can you just go out and blast away?
It's open season all year long and all day and all night. However, if you are out on someone's land or even out on public land and you're hunting at night, the burden of proof is on you to prove that you weren't poaching deer out of season or doing something else illegal. So yes, hunting feral hogs is illegal even at night in Arkansas and at any time of the year. So if you see them, feel free to go ahead and exterminate.
So, and that would require a hunting license, correct, or not?
No, you do not have to have a hunting license to shoot a feral hog, but if you're out with the gun, like Elmer Fudd out in the middle of deer season, the bird prove that you were not hunting a deer. So, I would not recommend anyone go out hunting, especially on public land, for feral hogs without a hunting license, period.
Right. At night.
Especially at night. Not with your Q-beam either. That's a bad idea. So I've actually been out hog hunting before in southeast Arkansas, where I'm from, and that was quite a fun adventure. But it was during deer season, so of course I had all my orange on and had my hunting license with me, but I was going down hog trails and stalking a herd of feral hogs. So it was really fun. It was a good time.
A friend of mine recently, he said he was deer hunting, and he heard something off to his left, and he looked over, and there was a huge wild hog behind a tree, and it didn't see him. It didn't hear him, didn't smell him. He said the wind was in his face, so of course it didn't smell him, and it scared. No, it wasn't a friend of mine. It was my son. Good grief! So,
oh no.
He said it saw him and it charged him, and he shot it, and then it got up and he was hunting with a 30-30. He shot it in the head. It got up and came again. He had to shoot it twice.
Yeah, they're tough. They're really tough.
So that could explain.
Yeller.
What's that? Old Yeller. Yeah.
Have you seen Old Yeller?
Yeah.
Every time I see a hog, I think about Old Yeller.
Me too. The hydrophobia is what they called it on there.
Yeah. Yeah, and rabies is picking back up in Arkansas and is becoming a problem again. Mostly we see it in skunks right now, but that is definitely something to watch out for.
So is it as prevalent in the winter as, say, like the summer months? I know during like really hot drought season, if we ever have a drought season again, typically when there was a long drought and when it was really hot, you would see a rise in rabies cases. Is that any correlation there? I don't know.
I don't know. I've never seen a seasonal chart on it. We only get the yearly updates from the state vet to help educate people about vaccinating their pets for rabies.
Yeah, rabies is nasty, nasty disease. What do you think is the contributing factor of why we can't get rid of them? I mean, I know we've got plenty of hunters, and hunters love to shoot their guns. So what? I mean, do they reproduce just way more than we can kill them, or what? I don't understand how we're having such a problem with them. They're huge. They're not like small creatures, like these zebra mollusks, or they're not in the water like the fish that jump out and hit you in your boat. But any idea, or have they given you any direction? Or this may not be. This kind of may be out of your lane, so to speak. But I don't know. I have you in front of me, so I'm going to ask you.
They're incredibly adaptive to different environments. And so the feral hogs can be very successful down in our Delta region and the river valley up in the mountains. They don't really care where they're at. They're going to find something to eat because they're omnivores. So they're constantly rooting around for roots, insects, small animals. They'll even forage on some plants, and so it's really hard to starve them out. And they can have 2.5 litters per year per sow, and each litter can consist of anywhere from 5 to 12 piglets. And then those piglets are ready to reproduce within less than a year. They reach sexual maturity. Wow,
so that's faster than rabbits.
Yes, if you do the math, the one sow can produce 193 offspring within less than 2 years. Not offspring only, but offspring and grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Right. Wow.
Right. And so, one sow that gets out of your trap can easily repopulate your property within 2 years if you miss her.
Wow. And they devastate devastate any agriculture. They just wallow it out. It's terrible what they do to the land.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a row cropper or you have cattle. Whatever they're out there doing is going to cause problems for you.
Hunters, do your part. You kill your limit on deer. Make sure you take a couple wild hogs too.
Definitely. And we're going to rely on hunters to be ethical and not re-release any animals for hunting, because that has happened before.
They what?
Yes, I know. I didn't want to bring it up, but it's true.
So they trap them, and then they take them to someplace, and then they release them so they can try to hunt them there.
Yes, because they've been trapped out of a certain favorite hunting area, then they reintroduce them for hunting purposes as sport. And for some, hunters have imported wild Russian boars and have released them so that their genetics will mix into the local population and make the pigs even meaner and hardier.
In Arkansas?
Yes.
Good grief.
Yes. And so I know that we can, as humans, and have caused lots of species to go extinct. But we have also introduced lots of animals to our environment that have been very harmful. And I hope that in the future, people will realize how devastating feral hogs can be and will stop letting them repopulate for sport.
Man, now we have commie feral hogs in 2020. Good grief. On a lighter note, let's talk about some resources that could be that may be available. Are there any resources for like your local gardener? Let's say I've never gardened before. I've never grown a houseplant. I kill cacti. Are there resources available that I can grow a garden next year to supplement?
Yes. On our website is everything you need to know to start a garden. But in addition to that, you can come in and talk to your county agent anytime. I love talking to people about gardening, and especially beginners, on how to start out on the right foot. You might not know it, but the original 4-H clubs that began in 1902 were actually called tomato clubs and corn clubs. And the leaders were teaching the kids how to garden and teaching them new methods. And the kids were more open and receptive to all of the research coming from the universities, and were willing to try new things. And then when the parents saw how well the tomatoes or corn was growing for the kids, the parents were more likely to adopt these new methods that they're so resistant to. So part of our job is to deliver research-based information and gardening help to people. So we don't have some of the viral tips that you see on Facebook that sound too good to be true, or a little out there like a weed killer that's made of dish soap and vinegar and salt.
I did that.
Okay, how'd that go for you?
Well, I didn't use it to kill weeds. I used it to kill insects, and I think I just drowned them.
Well, I mean, drowning is a legitimate method, but we can recommend, even if you're wanting to go organic, we can recommend research-based solutions that actually have been proven to work. So definitely holler at your extension agent, Brian, if you ever want to kill some insects again.
Okay. How about squash bugs? How do you get rid of squash bugs?
Well, my favorite method is using 7 dust, but 7 is not an organic. But there is a withdrawal period on that. So you want to wait. I think it's listed on the label how many days you wait after putting out the 7 dust before you can harvest vegetables. But if you start early in the season and get ahead of them, then you'll have a lot less trouble with those squash bugs than if you wait until you see them. And
again, 7 dust, it's been around for a long, long time. It's not like it's some new pharmaceutical, byproduct.
Yeah, and it works. It works great. And so we're not always about changing just for the sake of change. We do the research on new products, and we have to see if they work better than the old stuff. And if they don't, we don't recommend them.
Speaking of gardening, I tried I saw this online somewhere. It was a primitive gardening method because I didn't have a tiller. Well, I had one, but it was it took me longer to start the thing than to plant a garden if I would have just dug the whole thing with a hoe, because it was really old. And so the way it worked is you took a flat shovel and you cut a rectangular space. You basically cut down a few inches just into the sod, and you pull the sod up and set it over on one side, and then you dig down another 6 inches and you pull that dirt and set it on the other side, throw the sod down in the bottom and then take the bottom soil and rake over on top of the sod. And the theory is that the sod acts as a fertilizer. Was I duped, or does that sound pretty legit?
I'm not sure about digging down 6 inches of dirt and bringing it to the surface. But we do have free soil sampling services where you can bring in a pint of soil from your garden or yard or field, and we will send it off to our labs and get results back and give you recommendations on what type of fertilizer to use and how much lime to use to correct the acidity of your soil. And so it's a very accurate way of making sure that your plants are getting the right nutrients.
Speaking of soil and seeds and all that, I don't know. You can probably tell I don't know a lot about gardening, but I hear like heirloom seeds. And what are the different names for these? Are they is it jargon to sell a seed, or are they really different types of seeds that are better than others?
That's a really good question. I did a tomato variety demo last year that was really interesting, where I compared 3 different varieties of improved varieties of tomatoes that have been bred to be resistant to diseases. So most of your heirloom variety seeds, that means that it is an older variety that's not been improved or changed in many, many years. And the reason we like to improve or change things as people is because we always like to have something that's bigger, better, sweeter, juicier, or resistant to diseases and pests. And the newer varieties of vegetables, let's say a tomato plant, will be resistant to 2 or 3, maybe even 4 or 5 different diseases that heirloom varieties are not resistant to. And so you don't have to spray the new varieties for the diseases like tobacco mosaic virus. And in that way, we actually cut down on the use of chemicals in our garden by using improved varieties. They're not always genetically modified in a lab. A lot of times they are cultivated over several years of selective breeding. And so we take a tomato from one of your heirloom varieties, say, and then we try to find the one that was least sick or least affected by a disease, and we breed it to other plants that were not so effective. We do that for generations and generations and generations until we have a tomato that is now completely resistant to a certain disease. And through the work of universities and research stations like our fruit research station in Clarksville, we now have all kinds of varieties available of everything from blackberries without thorns to peaches and pecans and improved tomatoes. So I do prefer to recommend our improved varieties for several reasons, because they're easier to grow, they require less chemicals, they're more resistant to pests and disease, and a lot of thought and effort have gone into developing them.
When you say genetically modified, what does that mean to people? Because that's kind of been a buzzword the past few years.
Yeah, that's like a hot topic.
Non-GMO. And I always, if it says non-GMO on the label, I'm going to pay an extra 3 cents to get that. That's okay. Right or wrong. They sold me on it. So can you explain kind of what the genetically modified means to people that don't know?
Yeah, genetically modified means we have taken a plant, let's say soybeans, because that's one of the most common and well-known plants that we have modified. So we took soybeans and we added in a gene to their DNA that made them resistant to Roundup, the chemical. And that meant that we could now spray the entire field with Roundup one time after the beans have come up, and kill off all the weeds in the field. So they only had to be sprayed. They got sprayed fewer times, and we used less chemicals in the raising of those soybeans. Some other examples of genetically modified things are corn. And I'm not entirely sure what the modifications to corn were, but basically we've just tweaked their DNA a little bit by taking DNA from another plant that we liked and inserting it in there.
So do they ever insert genes from like cross species, like an animal gene into a plant?
I don't know if we've come that far yet. I have seen some animals that have had genes inserted for phosphorescence. So they took a creature from the ocean that glowed, some glowing algae, right? And they inserted that glowing DNA into a pig, and they made glow in the dark.
Wow, I've seen the mouse. I haven't seen the pig.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I don't know that it had any ill effects on the pig. It just made them phosphorescent and made them glowy.
Wow, bioluminescent feral hog. That's what we do. We somehow inject these feral hogs with this gene. That way, it's passed down, and you could legitimately hunt them at night. They're bioluminescent, communistic feral hogs.
I feel like they're so smart. They would just start building caves or something. They are so good at figuring out our traps and figuring out what people are doing and where we're going to be.
Really?
Yeah, they're incredibly intelligent.
Well, now I've heard that if you kill one and like the blood's on the ground, then they won't go back there.
Yeah, and if you ever try to trap one and one escapes, they are educated to that trap for the rest of their lives, and they will never enter another metal structure.
Wow. We somehow got back on the feral hog.
No,
I think that was me. So on the genetically modified
glowing fish and GMOs.
So on the genetically modified soybeans, they are resistant to the glyphosate. What gene? Where did they get the gene to insert into that? Do you know? I
don't know what plant it came from, but it came from another plant that is resistant to Roundup.
Yeah. So are you allowed to give your personal opinion on glyphosate or Roundup, so to speak, Monsanto's Roundup?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan.
Okay.
I just glyphosate, is the chemical that is in Roundup, and there are a lot of different brands that contain glyphosate that aren't Roundup. So
right,
it tends to be like the name brand versus the name.
Mm-hmm. What about giant Asian hornets? Have you heard anything about that? Are they in Arkansas?
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to be as big of a problem as some other things that have been in the news lately. I do keep honeybees, and so the thing about the murder hornet is that they murder honeybees or other native bees and not people. And I think when people they were murder hornets, they immediately jumped to the worst, that these were going to be chasing people through the streets of towns, and it was going to be like a bad 60s horror movie. Right.
Well, my cousin got stung by one. He was over in Thailand, and he was he was in Thailand. He was in a Buddhist monastery, and it had a winding staircase, and he was coming down the stairs, and it was under the railing, and he smashed it with his hands,
gosh.
And it stung him, and he said it's like the worst pain he's ever had. He was sick for a long time, and he said they're legit, they're really bad. But I don't imagine I don't imagine they hunt people, but
no, it sounds like he just had a bad circumstance.
Right. So they attack bee colonies. That can't be good. I mean, bees are kind of they
attack individual bees? Yeah.
Oh, so they don't attack the colony. I was thinking that because the pictures on Facebook you see, or on any social media for that matter, it shows like a decimated colony. They go in and they just bite the heads off all the bees. Is that not what they do? Or
I don't know about that. I'd have to look it up, do a little more research.
What are the benefits of growing your, what would you call it if you keep bees? It's not farming. It's not.
I call you're a beekeeper.
Yeah, keeping bees. What are some of the benefits of keeping bees besides the obvious of getting honey? What?
That's more my husband's project and hobby. I'm actually allergic to bees, so I try to keep away from them. I have done some projects with them. I got stung really bad one time on the face, and I told him I would never help him again if he didn't get me a better suit. And then within a week, I had the best bee suit on the market. It's great. But, it's a relaxing hobby because it's really cathartic to get in there and work the hive. You wouldn't think so, but with all of those stinging insects flying around, but it is. It's really, really relaxing. Of course, you can use the honey as food and as gifts for friends, or even as a business if you get enough bees. And then you can use the wax if you're into hobbies like making beeswax soap or candles, things like that.
So do you have a program in the extension service that deals with beekeeping?
Yes, we have an expert in our state office who pretty much that's his main job, is to handle beekeeping and beekeeper questions. And we have a whole page on our website dedicated to beekeeping and helping people getting started with bees.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, all of our resources are free, and all of the meetings that we host are usually free unless there's a charge for a meal or some extra materials or something.
Right.
So try out. Hopefully we'll have some beekeeper meetings coming up soon in the new year. Might be virtual, but by golly, we're going to have some meetings.
Yeah. I know a few years back they were talking like the numbers of the bee colonies in the states have been dropping. Like what is the term that they use? Like hive die off?
Colony collapse disorder.
Yeah. Is that still going on, or are they rebounding, or?
Not so bad as it was. And I think that the main thing they figured out with that was that bees were being attacked by pests like the varroa mite, which is basically a tick for bees. And the varroa mite infestation didn't arrive until the 1980s. And they came over from Asia, where they're native. And a lot of our honeybees are from Asia. So it was just sort of inevitable that they were going to be brought over with some imported bees. But the varroa mite will really decimate a hive, and you have to be dedicated to either organic treatments extremely regularly, or you can use a oxalic acid vapor treatment twice a year to stay on top of the varroa mites.
Wow.
And that only came up in the 80s in certain parts of the United States, and then of course spread through the 90s, and then became awful at the early 2000s for a lot of beekeepers. And until then, beekeeping was kind of a carefree, easy hobby. And now it requires some intensive maintenance and checking of your bees regularly for some of these new pests that have been introduced.
Wow. So do the varroa mites have any effect on humans?
No, not at all. They are 100% dependent on honeybees. Yeah. Did you know honeybees are not actually native to the United States?
I did not know that. What were our pollinators before the honeybees?
We had native bees and other insects that pollinated everything in our native landscape. And then as white settlers came over from Europe, and they brought bees with them. And then as they moved west, the bees did too. So Native Americans were not familiar with honeybees until they were introduced in the 16 and 1700s. Wow.
Where did the native honeybees go that were here?
Well, there aren't any native honeybees, right? Because almost 100% of our native bees in Arkansas are single.
Oh, okay.
They don't live in colonies.
Okay,
and
sorry.
So they bore into wood, or you've seen the little homes for native bees that are made out of bamboo shoots where they have little tunnels for the bees to live.
Right. They look like bumblebees. The wood boring bees, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, bumblebees are some of our native bees, but there's lots of others. There's one that's blue that's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the prettiest insects I've ever seen, and it's this iridescent blue color. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a native Arkansas bee.
Another service that you may or may not offer, I don't know, snake identification. You guys have a herpetologist on call?
We have a wildlife specialist that will help us with snake ID. But it does require a very good picture. So if you're going to send me a photo, do it before you chop it up with the hoe.
Right.
Because I've gotten some really gory photos of snakes that are just really trashed. Like there's no way I can tell what that snake is after they got done with it.
Most of the time, I would say 9 times out of 10, the housewives that take a picture of the snake and post it on Facebook, it's a harmless, like king snake, or it's a harmless snake. They're scared to death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just kind of built into human nature, isn't it?
I guess so. I like snakes. They're very important to the ecosystem. The way I describe it to people that say, "Oh, any only good snake is a dead snake." The way I describe it is, if it's not a viper, it's more closely related to a frog than it is that viper. Because they don't have teeth, and most of the time they wouldn't even bite you if you pick them up. And if they did bite you, it's not going to hurt you.
So do you play with nope ropes a lot, or
what's that?
Have you heard them called a nope rope?
Yeah, nope rope.
Instead of a snake, like.
Yeah, we have snakes like my bearded dragons. We've had all kinds of reptiles, but right now we have. I won't go through the list, but our home is like a Petco. And I should buy stock in Petco's company. I don't know if it's publicly traded.
That's awesome.
But we have lots of critters. I really do appreciate you coming on the show. I think we got a lot of valuable information out there for people. And if you guys have any questions on recipes, homemaking, the STEM field, that one was a new one on me. I had no idea. So like robotics and technology, stuff like that too.
Yes, yeah. So we have something for everyone in the family, from 4-H for the kids to if you're interested in canning and preserving food for the winter, or if you're wanting to grow your own garden, just give us a shout. Awesome.
Do you have a website? I think you've already mentioned the website, but do you have a local site that you want to plug, or?
Sure. I'll give the website again, just in case somebody wants to write it down or go visit it right now. It's uaex.edu, and you can click on counties, find your county agent, give them a shout, and whenever you go there, you'll see the picture of your county agent and their phone number and email address, as well as their social medias. So I'm pretty active on Facebook, and I'm trying to be better about being on Instagram, but some of our county agents have a Twitter, and we love to be contacted that way, or by email or phone call, or you can even come into the office.
Awesome. Sarah, thanks again for coming on. I cannot stress this enough. If you're a hunter, please kill a feral hog. They are terrible, terrible creatures. Kill a feral hog, and do your part. Support your county extension service. Get your kids in 4-H, and let's all plant a garden this year. Let's, make a goal. Let's plant a garden. If it's just tomatoes, squash, okra, whatever, surely there's a garden vegetable you like. You get your kids involved. That may be another way to get them to eat their vegetables, if they can grow them themselves and then take it to the table. That's a good way to get them to eating healthier. Again, Sarah, I want to say thanks. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. I hope that one day we won't be Arkansas's best kept secret anymore.
We'll do our part to make it spread far and wide through Logan County, at least.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.